Welcome to the Aviassist Focus Sessions. The Aviassist Foundation has been promoting aviation safety for over a quarter of a century, since 1995. In our focus sessions we inform, inspire and entertain African aviation safety. We talk about things that are crucial if we want to raise the bar on safety in Africa, and we introduce you to inspiring safety professionals. This season we've also added something new and exciting to the focus sessions. You have a chance to win $100 in each episode in cash. And we do this for two reasons. The first is that the game will give you some insight into what inspires my guests here at the table. And the second reason is simple. It gives you a chance to win $100. You'll see a web address at the bottom of the screen. And at that page you can submit the 3 letters that I'll give you throughout the broadcast and that, together, form a 3-letter code. Every 10 minutes or so we'll show you one of the favorite books of our guests here at the table. And all you have to do is write down the first letter of the first name of the author. And you'll end up with a 3-letter code. You enter those 3 letters on the Google form page and then click Submit. You can only submit your 3-letter code until 15 minutes after the end of this focus session. And from among the correct answers, we'll draw one lucky winner and send that person her or his $100 by mobile money. We'll announce the winner on our LinkedIn page, so that's a good reason to follow us on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, a great opportunity for you to win that cash $100. Now, we'll be speaking about just culture in an upcoming episode of the focus sessions. Just culture as the opposite of a blame culture. A just culture helps you create an environment where individuals feel free to report errors and help the organization learn from mistakes. In blame cultures, individuals are fired, fined or otherwise punished for their mistakes. But the root causes leading to the error are not investigated and corrected. As Aviassist, we are keen to help organizations achieve or speed up a move from a blame culture to a just culture. But it is easy to forget that a safety culture, a just culture, does not operate in isolation. It is part of the wider organizational culture. Organizational culture is made up of shared values, beliefs and assumptions about how people should behave and interact, how decisions should be made and how work activities should be carried out. An understanding of organizational culture is essential for effective leadership. Leaders and managers can better implement strategies and achieve their goals if they understand the culture of their organization. Strategies that are inconsistent with organizational culture are likely to meet resistance and will be more difficult or even impossible to implement. But the reverse is also true. When strategies are in line with the organizational culture, it'll be easier to put them into effect. So understanding the existing culture of an organization is important when thinking of introducing changes. So, today we'll be talking about organizational culture. I'm joined here at the table by Gwen Dudok van Heel, Jonathan Lewis, and my partner in safety promotion, Chamzu Anjorin. Let's get started and dive into organizational culture. Gwen, ladies first, let me start with you. You started off with a degree in remedial teaching. You were a coach of the Dutch ladies sailing team, held several senior management positions in among other IT and recruitment, and currently run your own company that coaches business leaders and helps them during scaling up, growing their business basically. On top of that, you published 2 leadership books, and you are the leadership instructor for the Aviassist Foundation as a professional volunteer. Are you still involved with that sailing, or has another sport meanwhile taken over?
Well, personally, I'm not sailing at the moment, unfortunately, but I'm still doing a lot of work for the Dutch Yachting Association.
Okay.
All kinds of work. And I have other sports that interest me very much, like road cycling, mountain biking, playing golf, etc.
Okay. Well, cycling, of course, is always easy in the Netherlands because it's flat as a pancake.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the
Thank you.
table.
Thank you very much.
My second guest of today is Jonathan Lewis. Jonathan, born in Zambia, you started with a degree in biology, and then your career brought you to the largest bank in the United States, JP Morgan Chase, where you were for approximately 8 years. And from there, you joined your father in a ground handling company called NAC 2000 in Zambia, where you are now the managing director. Now, NAC 2000, for the viewers out there, is the only ISEGO IATA certified ground service provider in Zambia. And you serve all the 4 international airports in Zambia, both for scheduled and charter operations. You recently, I think it's a new venture for you, set up a joint venture to run the business class lounge at the new Kenneth Kaunda International Airport. And importantly for us, of course, you've also been a corporate friend as a company for Aviassist for a few years now. Sometimes, you know, I'm lucky, I used to live in Zambia for many years, and you are stuck in traffic, you know, on the way to the city. And if you happen to find yourself close to your car, Jonathan, you'll hear very loud jazz music coming from the windows of your car. Where did you pick up that love for jazz, Jonathan?
I think music helps one relax, and obviously it was influences I had from my parents. So yeah, I do like to use my traffic time to think and relax.
Because I remember you have this secret button in your car that you press to get extra bass in the jazz, you know.
That's right, Tom. We all have our vices. And
never invite me into your car again. That's basically the motto. Great to have you here all the way from Zambia. Thanks so much for coming over.
Thank you.
For making that long journey.
A pleasure to be here.
Likewise, great to have you here, Jonathan. Then we come to Chamzu. I don't think you need much introduction for a lot of our viewers. But at the same time, of course, we keep getting new viewers, and they may not know you. Born in Benin, and you often say your career consists of 2 main parts. Initially, you qualified as an aviation engineer, and you joined Air Afrique, a Pan-African airline that unfortunately no more is. From the engineering position, you rolled into several senior management positions, including commercial roles. And then you say the second part of your career is with aircraft manufacturer Boeing, initially covering safety roles for the whole of Africa, but then also, again, diverging into sales and commercial roles. But if I take you back, you know, 45 years plus back, I guess, you wanted to get into research into solar energy, you told me once, a completely different domain. Where did that fascination for solar energy start in those early days?
Thank you, Tom, for the introduction. The interest for solar energy came from the abundance of these resources, this resource in Africa, and I was already thinking about energy optimization. Yeah.
I mean, you were way ahead of the game now, because now it's all solar energy.
No.
But you have seen that 45 years ago in Benin, or 50 years ago, whatever it is. Fantastic. Well, welcome to the studio again, Chamsu. Great to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, or lady and gentlemen, today I look forward to looking at basically 3 dimensions of organizational culture. Our first topic will be how to improve your understanding as a leader of the organizational culture of your company or your organization. Second topic we'll look at is based on a lot of questions, actually, Gwen, we get in the courses you give for us in Africa. How to create an environment where feedback is perceived as a supportive suggestion instead of criticism. That's something people keep asking about in those courses. And the third topic is, that we'll be focusing on today, is what low-hanging fruits, what easy options do you see to create a nice, constructive culture in your organization or your company, Chamsu, to create basically a nice place to work. So Jonathan, maybe if I can bring in your expertise and your position in NAC 2000 in Zambia, how do you think leaders in organizations and companies in Africa can improve their understanding of the organizational culture in their own organization or company? Okay.
I think one of the most important things is for the management team to understand that that culture shouldn't stay with them. Really a sort of bottom-up approach is needed in terms of understanding the concepts of the culture you want to develop and push that from both the top and the bottom. More often than not, it gets stuck at the top and doesn't filter down.
So the people at the top know what they want from the organization in terms of how the atmosphere should feel, but they forget to inform or train their own staff on that.
Absolutely. Sometimes things get stuck in the boardroom or in the meeting rooms, and they don't get disseminated.
And if you, as a leader or one of your senior managers, whether it's with NAC 2000 or another company, but want to better appreciate what happens and what the culture is. There is management by walk around, for example. Can you think of other things that you could do, you could suggest to our viewers, how to find out what lives on the work floor, what stories are told?
One of the things to do is, like you say, walk around, spend more time with individuals as well. People don't talk. Sometimes if there's pressure from outside,
other people around,
from other people, especially their supervisors or managers. So really it's just to communicate better and take the time to understand what is it that you want to change within the organization in terms of culture, and really do a lot of on-the-ground work.
Which I guess is easier, of course, if it's a smaller company than when it's a big company. That maybe makes me think of your latest employer, Jamsu, Boeing. A super large, I think 140,000 plus people. What did you see in that and previous jobs that you had in terms of how they tried to make sure they understood what was happening amongst the employees?
I think it was very well understood that the power of organization relies in its people, and the role of an organization is to bring out the energy out of the people for a collective goal. And once to achieve that among 160,000 employees, you need to have a clear statement of your vision, the mission, the shared values, and train people to share that across their diversities and understand. So it's a huge task, but I think it's worth doing that. We were trained. We had regular training about these values, and it inspires the behaviors. It starts with the leaders, of course, but leaders are not only in management. Leaders are, every employee is a leader.
Interesting.
Yeah. So developing the leadership of the organization at all levels is a way that you can get close to that. But we are human beings, so it's always some resistance to changes, and you have to manage all that. So it was for me personally, I enjoyed that time with Boeing because it was well structured.
And it's interesting to hear you say, and I'll come to you in a moment actually, Gwen, for the same question, but you mentioned energy, how to make sure they give that energy to you as a company. That brings you back to your fascination with energy, so it's interesting to see that indeed. Gwen, any suggestions from your work in the Netherlands, but equally in Africa? How can a leader better hear what stories are being told and create this constructive, nice place to work, basically?
Yeah, I always think we have to teach the leaders much faster than all the employees, because it starts with the top leader. He or she has to create an open environment where the bottom-up culture can start. So that means that the leader has to be open and open-minded for all the information from the organization, from the people, from the employees, how to improve the whole level of the culture. That's very important. And I think what you said, walk the talk, being an example, train your people, be there, listen to them. Listening is a very important.
And we're on average very bad at that as humans. I think,
yeah.
We have. They say we have two ears and one mouth for a reason, but for whatever reason we always get it the wrong way around.
And we are talking about human beings, so everybody has their own perception of this world, of his world, and it's very important to listen to this world and to adapt your leadership style to the employees.
But of course, John, it's not always easy, because there's the daily operations, the hectics. Yes, I have to listen, but we also have to get this aircraft out in your case.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And I always say as well, in an organization, the highest contact with your clients is normally with it's non-management contact.
It's the frontline staff.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone's going to understand what your organizational culture is, they're going to get it from your frontline staff. So this is also why it's so important to make sure it's embedded. It's not an easy task. You have to change a lot of habits, and it takes time.
Well, speaking of the habits, actually, that brings me to the first book. For the people out there, the viewers, if you want to win this $100. So you took The Power of Habit to the studio, Jonathan. And the author is Charles Duhigg. So the first letter that you need of the first name is the C, the Charlie, for the online form and have that chance. But this is an important thing you're saying, the fact that we have habits, we have good habits, we have to keep them, but we also have to not be afraid to perhaps break habits?
Absolutely. So just like I have a habit of playing loud music in the car, we all have habits. For example, in that book, they talk about giving up alcohol, giving up smoking, other just behavioral traits that are very hard to change. And so to understand why those behaviors exist in the first place, and then how to try and change them, or at least guide them in the right direction, the positive direction.
Yeah, but I really like this notion also that you brought up earlier, that you said, you know, the customer will not usually see you or your senior management. They will see the person who actually handles the aircraft in the case of ground handling, or you know, the stewardess in the aircraft. So if they don't exude, if they don't have that culture, that friendliness, the great atmosphere across their face, then it's going to be difficult to get that across, I guess.
Absolutely. So I think you need to make people believe that they are the brand, they are the organization themselves, and try and inspire them to be the best they can be. It's the only way you get and retain clients.
And perhaps also staff, I guess, yeah? Because if you're not a nice employer to work for, then people are more likely to move on after you've invested in their training, etc.
Absolutely. So it's not a controlled, highly controlled regime, as it were. It should exude from inside every employee.
What I always say to leaders, I work with a lot of leaders and entrepreneurs, is be clear and transparent to your employees. And what I find very often is they don't say the truth. Tell them the truth. Be transparent.
Even if it's not nice, perhaps.
Yeah, and even when you don't know an answer, be transparent and say, at the moment, I don't know the answer. And so that's very important.
To perhaps manage expectations of people.
Right,
in a way.
right, yeah.
The challenge is also to keep an eye on the company goals, production goals, and that's what you are measured on, while you know that it's only through bringing energy out of your team that you can reach that goal. But the short-term goal is to focus on the production, you know, and you don't always have the time to spend with the people and make them be part of the system.
As much as you want to.
Much as you want to.
Yeah.
So with you, Chamzu, actually.
Challenges.
In your time with Boeing, you've of course also visited lots of African airlines who were customers of Boeing. What did you notice there in terms of best practices to trying to create that culture? I mean, if you think of some of the customers in Africa that use Boeing products, were there any things that stood out for you? You said, "Oh, that's just an amazing feature almost of the organization in trying to create that nice place to work"?
Well, the way people know a company like Boeing has been through the products and the people they deal with. So product brand, product reputation, and company reputation are very, very important. And as long as you stick to, you are truthful and people trust you, you keep going until something breaks, and you also pay the price for it.
And then, speaking of something breaking, if we can move to the topic of the feedback, which is when sometimes things go. I guess feedback should be positive and negative, of course, but quite often that's the point we hear from in the courses in Africa. People want to learn more and better how to give positive feedback, especially, of course, if they're in a middle management position. How to avoid being too much, accusing people of things that went wrong. Any suggestions there, Gwen? How people could.
Well, first of all, you mentioned positive feedback. Giving compliments. I think it's very important to lift the energy of the team, of the employee. So that's very important. Giving positive feedback. On the other hand, negative feedback, very often people perceive it as criticism, but it's the way of providing feedback is very important.
Can you give an example how constructive feedback is? Are there tricks in terms of wording?
Oh, sure. There are several tricks, and leaders must learn this technique, and we train them in this. I always say, giving negative feedback is the most underestimated skill, and for many people, very, very important. First of all, talk about yourself and mention a fact. I see this, I heard this, etc. Second, you tell them what it means for you. Why is this not helping you, or what's the reason that I don't like this? And then you take the bridge to the other person. So you ask a question, for example, do you recognize what I just said? Mm-hmm. Do you mean what I said? Do you understand what I just said?
But again, in a pleasant tone of voice as well, of course.
Sure. Yeah. And start with giving negative feedback when you have your own emotions under control, not when you are very angry or so. Be calm, and don't wait a week or a month. Then it's compounding inside. But give your feedback as soon as possible.
Okay, well, those are
some tricks.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, I hear in what you're saying, obviously we don't get it right all the time, but for me, I use the sort of we're in this together type approach, which is more transparent, and there has to be an understanding. That's the very clear thing about that.
In which way?
Yeah.
And
you mean next understanding?
In the communication, the understanding of A, the problem, and B, the impact, and C, that it's okay, there is a solution. Let's provide solutions before things get worse.
And I think why this is important, of course, is because, as I mentioned in the introduction, as Avia Assist, we're interested in this organizational culture to help us move away, and first of all, to make a nice place for work for people, but also to move away from this blame culture to a more constructive culture, because then we can learn if we hear things that happen in the organization. So I think in that respect, it's very important. That's why people ask these questions, I think, as well in the courses. Time for
one thing.
Yes.
Are people aware? Are the employees aware that they can make mistakes? I always say
they're allowed to make mistakes. You mean?
Yeah. I always say fail. First attempt in learning. So are we allowed in a good culture? Are we allowed to make mistakes?
We should be allowed, in a way, in the ideal situation.
We should be allowed.
Unless, of course, it's willful misconduct. If people come to work drunk or something, that's a different story.
Yeah.
We're trying to think of, again, people in our industry, in every industry, they come to work to do a good job, basically. So that should be the starting point of... Gwen, to build on what you were just saying, this, for the viewers out there, our second book, it is written by Brené Brown, so it's the Bravo that you need to fill online to make a chance for this $100. In a nutshell, why did you bring this book, Dare to Lead?
I like the title, Dare to Lead. Becoming a good leader has nothing to do with being soft. It's a combination of being clear and dare to lead. So help your people to grow. That's it in very short terms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also connects nicely, Chamsu, to the point you made, of course, that ideally everybody should be a leader for the culture, for
Yeah.
the product you...
Yeah. It requires a lot of courage.
Courage to be a leader.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, because you have to go out of your own comfort zone to understand, to connect with the people you are leading, and try to get. You have to understand what's happening, and for that you need to almost almost control yourself more than
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very nice indeed. Also, it says here: have brave work, tough conversations,
Yes.
and whole hearts.
yes.
Yeah, use your heart. Eh?
Yes.
Leaders can use their heart, and it has all to do with emotional intelligence.
Yes.
So that's the level of empathy and connect with others, etc. And the level of self-reflection is very important for leaders.
Yes.
So that's what I improve very fast with leaders. If they don't have self-reflection, how can you lead? So that's where it starts.
Self-reflection has to look at yourself.
Yeah, self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jonathan, I can see you were itching there.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that also relates to confidence as well. I don't know if it's a global problem or an African problem, but more often than not, individuals don't believe in themselves. So a part of that culture is building strength and confidence in people to make them understand that what they may perceive to be impossible is possible, and that we can achieve.
And I think actually sometimes in African settings, I had the privilege of living in Zambia, listening to your music in the traffic jam, you know, and I feel like I can't compare that, of course, to everywhere in Africa, but in Zambia, I felt much more this almost big man issue, where I'm a secondary school leaver coming to work for a ground handler, and you are the managing director, you're my boss, you know, and so to dare to lead, or not, how do you see that? It's sometimes more difficult, perhaps, than in a Western setting, if you like, where the interpersonal skills people were taught may be slightly different.
Absolutely. I think that's what, maybe I'm not articulating myself well, but that's what I'm trying to drive at, that it is possible to have high global standards, to have a career path, to be able to be in a system that can lead you from a place like Zambia to doing the exact same job in Heathrow, in Dubai, in Kigali, wherever it might be, because we have global standards when it comes to our industry.
That's true, yeah. So in that respect, it's a transferable skill almost.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember a conversation I had with Mashadi Ntenga, an air traffic controller from South Africa, who will also feature in one of our focus sessions, and she indeed took this step of writing a letter to the HR director at the air traffic control organization here in the Netherlands and saying, I want to work for you. And that's what you're in a way saying, is dare to believe in the fact that
absolutely
you may start, in your case, for example, as a baggage loader, but it doesn't mean you have to stay there the rest of you. And probably you're actually quite keen to develop your people, I would imagine, or not?
Absolutely. Whatever investment you make in human resource will always return itself. So it's something that's vital in any organization.
Dare to step up.
Yeah.
That's it.
To speak out. And
yeah.
Also, the organization should also listen to the people's aspirations and help them as much as possible to develop themselves.
To grow in their direction, the direction they want.
Sometimes it's difficult because there may be wrong expectations, but it's through the dialogue that you can bring that person to understand, to adjust the path, his path to growth.
Yeah.
Because I may want to be the president of a country, but if I've never been involved in politics, maybe someone needs to tell me how to, what are the
steps you could take
to get there. But don't tell me, no, you can't be the president because you have never done politics.
Yes.
If I want to. But certainly I need to understand the steps and maybe realize myself that that's not for me.
Or if that is something I want to continue, there's a few steps I have to take
Yeah,
before.
yeah. What I remember in the training courses in the different African countries, employees ask, how can I bring up certain topics to my leader? And I found that I think there's a little more hierarchy in some African countries. So I learned them to speak out and step up and tell them, their leaders, what do you want? So it's very important to train their muscles as well.
Is that an issue? But Jonathan, the assertiveness of people?
I think, again, potentially in African culture, when you challenge those boundaries, depending on the leaders, there is an issue.
Yeah.
And this is why, as an organization, you need to be ready to be open, receive the feedback, and most importantly, address it, do something about it. So we all know that when there are problems, you know, a high percentage could just be hot air, but focus on the real issues and address them.
Yeah.
This is my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some traits of national culture that exist, and you can't change it. I mean, you need to be cognizant of that. For instance,
aware of
the hierarchical hierarchy distance is something that is very embedded in African culture, for instance. But the enterprise needs to be very clear about how they deal with that, so that the employees can challenge that. Otherwise, for instance, in a family, you don't necessarily speak up in front of elders. You have to, but yet there are ways of doing that. You just have to find a way of doing that.
Yeah.
If I want to contradict my father, I wouldn't do it in the front of the family. I will certainly find a way of go to him and tell him, you know, I don't agree with this.
This one-on-one you were talking about as well, I think.
One-on-one.
Yeah.
But if you want to step up in the crowd and say, no, I don't agree with you, it will never fly. For instance, that's just an example.
Nice choice of word. It will never fly.
Recognize.
It's time for our third book. This is actually from an author from Zambia. But where are you really from? And it's written by, it's a bit difficult to see, but Amanda Nkosi Mukwashi. So it's the A, the letter alpha, which is the third letter you need to fill in that Google form. And make sure you submit it before 15 minutes after this broadcast to have a chance to win $100, which might help you in a career step, perhaps. I never know. If you save that money, if you win it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm particularly proud to see that someone from Zambia is contributing to the, how do you say, the literary world.
Yeah, and absolutely. And it's a really nice read. I read it very recently. I can really recommend it for you as well to read it. She used to be the managing director of Christian Aid in the UK for many, many years. I think she now works in, Swaziland or Lesotho for the UN. So she's a high flyer.
Interesting.
Indeed. And she might have come from that small village somewhere in Zambia, you know, but took those steps to dare to lead.
Great.
Now, we're coming towards the end of this focus session. They're always too short, I find. But at the same time, it means we have to focus. You know, we can't move away from all these things. So what I would like to harvest, if I could, from each of you, one by one, is what would be your one tip to help organizations move to a constructive organizational culture, to a culture where people dare to speak out and where people are also getting guidance, as you all said around the table here, about what steps they could follow to move on in their career. I think if I'm going to ask a volunteer, nobody's going to volunteer, but Gwen, if you have to give like a small golden tip, what could the people out there do to, especially if they're a manager position, to create that culture? Yeah,
invest in coaching, training, development. If I compare it to the world of sports, top players do have top coaches. So if possible, invest in coaching, in the top leaders of the company has the role to develop their employees, but also invest in coaches, training programs for yourself as a top leader, but also for your employees.
How to learn to have those conversations meaningfully. Actually, that brings me, before I get to the gentleman, to an important point, because as we all know around this table, training in Africa, of course, it's crucial, but it also has a challenge, because people always think they have to be trained far away, you know, go far away, which is expensive as an employer. Does it always have to be far away? Could you have training locally by leaders in your company, perhaps? Jonathan, how does it work with you?
Okay, so interesting. When you asked the first question,
Yes.
I did think of training as the most important, highest impact activity. Personally, with our organization, we've realized over time that we need to bring that more and more in-house due to logistics, costs, and so on and so forth. So we're on a sort of train the trainer programs, and then we can potentially deliver to other sectors of the same market.
Deliver that same training, you mean, to other sectors in the market?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So it might even become a revenue-generating issue, in a small one, but
could do, but this is not the primary objective.
Oh, okay.
It's more actually to reduce cost over time, and to have the highest impact and benefit. But that's not to say that you need outside help all the time. You need to be open to international standards and other points of view, fresh thought processes. So
I'll give you a bit more time to think of your other tip, because you were going to also speak about the training, and I first do come jump soon. But I think you need that. Maybe also, perhaps you could say, a silver lining of the horrible Corona crisis. That, before that, it seemed quite often to me that in Africa we were only thinking about training means going to Singapore, training means going to Geneva. We couldn't all of a sudden, and so maybe it has forced our industry in Africa, to think, okay, we have to do things locally. Do you think that has, Jamsu, do you think you've seen that happen?
Certainly, I think that people have realized that they have tools that they didn't use before, and I hope that these tools, like what we are using today, keeps developing, that we can train ourselves online, individually, in small groups, and there are many ways of, new ways of working together that we can take advantage of, yes, but it's not necessarily traveling.
However nice it is, of course.
Although it's nice to travel and get to go to a training class. And I want to jump on what Jonathan mentioned earlier. Leaders training leaders is very important, and it creates that. So sometimes you see someone you have never had the opportunity to talk to, but in a classroom where he can share his experience with you, it creates the link that is very useful for the organization. So.
Jonathan, one tip. Have you thought of a new tip, a golden egg, to help people, the viewers? Aside from training itself, I think obviously know what it is that you want to achieve.
As a company, have the framework. It will continuously change, but you need to have that framework in place. And then that's where the work starts from. So really go back to basics. I think it was Chamzu that explained about vision and mission, have people understand this. One of the things that helped us in our company was, in order to start changing culture, we actually jumped onto a Japanese program called Kaizen.
Yeah.
And this is a very good program to start with, in my opinion, that really helps to get people to understand the basics of organization, first of all, and then culture.
And is it affordable, something like Kaizen, for a company, you think, in Africa?
It's free.
It's free. Well, even better. Okay. Yeah. So Google Kaizen. We'll put some links maybe once this broadcast is
there's a book
up on YouTube.
There's a book written about it.
So training, knowing what you want, having your vision and mission clear is the tip from. And I know indeed from Aviasys that's also not easy, to really know what you want, because sometimes you have people like me who go all over the place. No, that's why I have my board. Bring me back. Where do we make the biggest impact? Third tip, Shamsu, do you have a tip for the viewers out there?
Try to have everyone in the organization connect to the big picture of where do we go, how do I fit in? It's an important question for the people. If they don't know how, if you set a goal or a vision that is far beyond what they are doing without helping them understanding that how do I fit in while my job is just to move luggages, and how do I do I connect to Jonathan's profit goal? If you don't get that connection, it's very difficult to have. And once you create that connection, you can feel the energy grow.
Thanks so much,
in the organization.
Shamsu. And I think indeed also that's what we're trying to do with Aviassist, being here at the studio to basically at your place of work, which it is for all of us. So even though we're all volunteers for Aviassist, or the experts we send out are volunteers, it's about creating great moments at work, I guess, in many ways.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for joining me here and focus sessions today in Hilversum, the broadcasting capital of the Netherlands. And also thank you for tuning in for safety today. Join us in Africa for one of the 3 exciting safety courses that we're offering from the 14th to the 16th of September in Kigali. We'll bring you a human factors in aviation course, a peer support training for pilots and cabin crew course, very important to look after our employees' mental health as well. And we'll also bring you an aviation insurance course. And coming to Rwanda in September means you can also visit Africa's biggest conference and exhibition organized by our partners Times Aerospace. It's called Aviation Africa 2022, and that takes place in Kigali in Rwanda on the 12th and 13th of September. We would love to see you at our stand at the exhibition as well, so we can talk and have those conversations to find out what we can possibly do to help with your safety promotion. For more information and booking of the courses, please visit our web shop at the below address. And I would say join us again next month for another focus session, same time, same frequency. For now, kwaheri and have a good day.